Welcome to my channel. I am Aleph0, and in today's video I will finally share my Python bot to shiny hunt in the Pokémon games for Game Boy Advance. However, I don't have the scripts ready yet, but I'm going to show you how to set up the files for the scripts to work properly in the future. The codes I'm going to share were made for the Visual Boy Advance emulator for the Game Boy Advance. They may work with other emulators, but I am not completely sure. So the first thing you will need to do is to install Python in your computer, because to set up the bots you are going to need a Python compiler. Here I have Visual Studio Code, and I am not going to explain how to install Python, but there are several tutorials on the internet. Once you have Python installed and working properly, you can download the setup files I left in the link in the description of this video. In that link, you are going to find this folder in a Google Drive, and all you need to do is download this folder. Once the folder has been downloaded, you will need to subtract the folder inside, for example, here in the desktop. Inside the folder, you are going to find the Python files needed to set up the scripts to shiny hunt that I am going to share in the next videos. So for today, I am just going to show you how to set up these files to work with the shiny hunting scripts in the future. So the first thing we need to do is to check that the display of our computer is a multiple of 100. So we can go here to Settings, and in System Settings you can check here the display, and the scale of the display has to be a multiple of 100. So it can be 100, it can be 200, or even 300 or 400. But you should not use something like 150% or 175. If that's the case, the code may not work properly. It can still work, but I am not sure if it will actually work. So once we check that, we can open our Python compiler program. For example, the one I am using here is Visual Code. Once we open the program, we have to open the folder where we download the scripts. So here we can just copy the directory of the folder, and here in the file section of Visual Code I can open a folder and paste here the directory and open that folder. And once we do that, if we get a pop-up that says trust the authors, I believe you have to select that option for the code to work properly. If you don't trust the authors, I am not sure if the code will work properly because I didn't test that option. Since I am the author of these codes, I can trust the authors without problem. The next thing we are going to do is to open the first program. This first one is just to set up the position of the taskbar and the minimization button of Windows. And you will need to install the keyboard module, so if you get an error after compiling this program, that may be the problem. And you also have to have the PyAutoGUI module installed because it is used by this other file. So also install PyAutoGUI. After installing those two modules, we can compile the program. And once again, I am not going to explain how to install a module in Python because you can easily find a tutorial over the internet. So once you run the program, you have to run it using the option of Run Python File. So after that, you are going to see my program to read pixels on the screen. As you can see here, the color shown is the one of the color that is being pointed by the position of the cursor. So what you have to do here is to position your mouse on the taskbar. this is the position that the program is going to click to get out of all of the emulators so they do not desynchronize. So once you are positioned on the taskbar, you just need to press the control key once. And after that, the program is going to activate now the setup to detect the position of the minimization button. So now you need to position your cursor in the bottom to minimize all of the windows of the screen. So it's the button that does this. So once you are positioned there, you once again are going to press the control key. And that's all we need to do on this program. Now we can close it and open the second one. These two setup programs only need to be run once. The next one is to set off the position of the emulator correctly. So we need to open a Pokémon Fire Red or Leaf Green game. So I'm going to open an instance of Pokémon Fire Red. And now we are going to check the size of our emulator. The size has to be one of these. It cannot be a custom size. So for example, here I can move the size of the emulator like this. But if the size of the emulator is not one of the ones that come by default, then the program will not work properly. So here you need to select one of these options. So you can do 2x or 1x or 3x or 4x, but the size has to be one of these. And once the emulator has the correct size, we can go to the options, and from here we need to take a screenshot of the emulator window. So let me here take a screenshot of this section, and we need to open an image editor program. So for example, I have here the default paint program from Windows, and from here we need to crop two pictures. So the first one is the small gamepad here in the pick option. We need to crop this small piece. We can just copy it and open it in another paint window. So we need to crop this small picture to only show this section. So once we select that section, we can crop the image. And the result should be a square image of a size of 7 by 7 or a multiple of 7 by 7. For example, it may be 14 by 14, like the one I have here. It can be 21 by 21 or, for example, 35 by 35. But it has to be a multiple of 7. If the picture is not correctly cropped, for example, if I just do this, then the program will not work properly. So it has to be exactly this section of the image. And once we have this exact image, we are going to save it in the same folder where we download the codes, but in a subfolder that has to be named images. So we have to create here a folder called images, and it has to be that exact name. Inside that folder, we have to save this picture with the name of options underscore pic, and the format of the picture has to be a PNG picture. So the resulting name has to be options underscore pic.png. If the file doesn't have that name or that format, then once again the code will not work. Once we save the picture, we can close this paint window, and the second picture we need is a picture of the logo of the emulator. And for this second image, it doesn't matter what section do you choose, but the bare minimum is that you include the screen of the Game Boy Advance picture from here. So something like this. You can also do something like this, or even something like this. So it doesn't matter. In this case, you just need to crop here and small picture. So in this case, we can use directly crop from here, and we have to save this file again as a PNG image, and the name has to be GBA_logo. And once again, it has to be a PNG picture. You can reduce the size of this image if you want, as long as you include the small blue screen. And now we can close this window. If you did everything correctly, now you should have here a folder called images with 2 PNG files. And after that, all you need to do is to position your emulator window in such a way that the whole window is visible outside of the Python compiler. Something like this. And remember that the game has to be on the options menu. After that, all you need to do is to run this file with the option of run Python file. And if you did everything correctly, you should get this message in the console. So all these two files do is to set up this file called PCPerms. So now from here, you should be able to see the scale factor of your emulator and the correction vector of the Game Boy Advance image in your emulator. Also the taskbar and minimization window positions. And the last thing we are going to do is to set up the emulation speed. So once again, here in the Visual Boy Advance, you have the option to speed up the emulator. So for example, if you have a speed of 100, which is not speed up at all, then your emulation speed should be 1. Or if you are speeding up the game, for example, I usually use 400%, then you have to remove the 100 and just set up here the number. So for my 400%, my emulation speed should be 4. And with that, everything should be ready for the shiny hunting scripts to work. In my next video, I'm going to share the code to shiny hunt the starters for Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green. And in the meantime, please share with me in the comments what was your scale factor and your correction vector. If your scale factor is 1 and the correction vector is 0, it may be because you haven't run these two scripts yet. Also, you can test my other program that I left here to read pixels from the screen. So for example, if I run this program, I am going to get the colors of the pixels of the screen relative to the position of the emulator logo. So you can check out this program too, because it is going to be needed in the future. Thank you for watching this video, and remember to let me know in the comments the scale factor and correction vector that you obtained. And please subscribe to my channel to stay tuned for the next video.